Alright folks, this is Harris Sultan and I have good news for you. What we've been trying to do for a very long time, it seems like finally it's coming to fruition. And we have seen Rishi Sunak make statements after statements which are clear warnings to radical Islamists and jihadis. Enough is enough. And it seems like that Britain has finally taken a right turn. It seems like that finally politicians are starting to listen to the threat of Islamism, not out of the goodness of their heart, but because of people like you who've been pressuring our politicians. And that needed to be done. I know October 7 is a tragedy and a lot of people died in Israel, and consequently a lot of innocent people have died in Palestine as well. But unfortunately, something as terrible as October 7 terrorist attacks had to happen in order for our masses to wake up. And looks like that's what's finally happened. These so-called pro-Palestine, which are actually pro-Hamas protests, have awakened the sleeping masses. I guess that makes us wokes as well in a way. Not the blue-haired ones. The nice ones. We're the smart ones. If we do it, we're right. If they do it, they're wrong. So, because of this violence, intimidation, and provocation on our streets in pretty much every major Western city in the world, our politicians have been forced to make statements to warn these radical Islamists, and then the blue-haired Wokistanis would be next. But they're just harmless, useful idiots. We can take care of them later on. But right now, we got to take care of radical Islamists running amok on our streets. So here on this channel, I have shown you how Rishi Sunak has been changing his tone towards these radical Islamists. He's getting harsher and harsher towards them, sending a clear signal to them that enough is enough. But that's not it. That's just the beginning of what's to follow. And now the UK government has redefined what extremism really is. So I'm going to talk about this, but before we go any further, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like me to keep making awesome videos like these, if you want me to keep trying to wake people up in the West against the threat of Islamism, you can be my patron by going to patreon.com/Harris Sultan, or you can simply buy me a coffee. Links below on your screen. So let's get to today's video. Okay, so here on this channel, I've been telling you that Muslims played their hand way too soon. And in my opinion, Geert Wilders in the recently concluded Dutch elections won or became the single biggest party because of these pro-Palestine protests. Okay, how did we get there? That didn't happen overnight. Something happened in our culture over the course of the last 2 decades that people became more and more afraid to voice their concerns, especially if it goes against the woke ideology. If it's got to do with anything non-white, brown culture, black culture, whatever, anything that is non-white, you cannot criticize it, no matter how evil and wicked that doctrine is. You would lose your jobs, you would be vilified publicly, you would be called many names. If you see anything wrong in your neighborhood, God forbid, if it's about a minority culture or a brown culture or anything non-white, then you would be shut down as a racist bigot. People would take screenshots of your tweets or your posts, and then they would send it to your employer, and then you could possibly lose your job. So consequently, people stop talking about anything that is against non-white. Just look at what they did to Tommy Robinson. The guy cannot live a normal life. All for what? Just because he's a white man and he's saying exactly what a brown man can say so openly? Right now, the most immediate danger is not far-right ideology or far-right white supremacists. They're too small, they're too insignificant, they're not a threat. The real threat is Islamism, as we have seen in the post-October 7 world. So here's a litmus test. What is it easier to be in the West these days? Is it easier to be pro-Palestine or it's easier to be anti-Islamism? What is easier? If you say anything, oh, Islam is a religion of peace, it's a beautiful religion, let's all live in harmony, that's easy. Everyone loves that. You bear absolutely no consequences. Our corporations will not take any action if you said anything like that. However, if you said that Islam is a violent ideology, Islam supports child marriage, Islam is misogynistic in nature, try it. Actually, no, don't try it, because someone might take a screenshot of that and send it to your employer, and then you would lose your job. So that's the reason why people stop talking about this. So they discourage you. So their initial position was, we're going to keep paying this lip service that Islam is a religion of peace, diversity is our strength, we are all together, let's hug each other, embrace each other, and live in our la la land. But unfortunately, you can only cover up lies for so long. And October 7 changed our world like never before. these pro-Palestinian people. Mostly they're Muslims, but we have some blue-haired, pathological, altruistic, useful idiots as well. Ignoring them, we have seen how they attack people who say Hamas is terrorist. We have seen how they project genocidal slogans like, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, on the Big Ben. We have seen intimidation and provocation by them.
You, wallah, shame on you. You're with us. What's wrong with you?
And because the government had been appeasing these people for almost 2 decades, they didn't know how to deal with it. The Met Police is left with this 2-tier policing system. And when anyone highlights that problem, like Suella Braverman, her own Prime Minister sacked her. And now the Prime Minister is trying to send these subliminal messages to these radical Islamists that no, we will not tolerate this. You cannot do this. But this doesn't work. Islam doesn't respect words. Islam only respects power and firmness. And that's the spine that our politicians have been lacking. But it looks like they're growing a spine now. So let me show you the old definition of extremism. The 2011 definition described extremism as vocal or active opposition to fundamental British values. What we see every weekend in the streets of London, where these people come out, they chant genocidal slogans like, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, intimidating people, supporting Hamas. Anyone who holds up a sign like Hamas is terrorist, they go after them. That is the breach of this. Vocal or active opposition to fundamental British values, including democracy. Yeah, they're supporting Hamas. Hamas is not a proponent of democracy. The rule of law, individual liberty and mutual respect and tolerance of different faiths. They don't respect the Jews. They don't respect Hindus. We've seen what happened in Leicester.
For the last hours, the brothers are here. Their faces are concealed only due to the fact of the discrimination by the BJP, the Conservative Party and the RSS. We are not here to cause any harm, but we will defend our people and use reasonable and necessary force to stand and defend our honor.
Now, that was the old definition. No matter how you interpret this old definition, Muslim organizations have been breaching that in plain sight. But the British politicians have been so spineless that they just could not stand up to them. Boris Johnson was not ignorant. He quoted one of the violent verses from the Quran, "Slay the unbelievers wherever ye find them." You know, that one. So he knew about it, but when he came to power, he didn't do much. Jacques Chirac also said in the 80s that Islam is incompatible with French values. But they didn't do anything. They just kept appeasing them, and they just kept kicking the can down the road, hoping that someone else will take care of it. And here we are 20 years later. Now we have these highly radicalized people, 2nd or 3rd generation Muslims, who have absolutely no respect for Western values. So anyway, so that was the old definition of extremism. The UK government thought, maybe they're not getting the message. So let's update the definition, which pretty much more or less says the same thing. The new definition says the promotion or advancement of an ideology based on violence, hatred, or intolerance. Pretty much the same thing. I think this was already covered. Vocal or active opposition to fundamental British values. So you could not be opposing British values. And now they're saying, well, you can't support, promote, or advance an ideology that is based on violence, hatred, or intolerance. Muslims are unhappy with this because, newsflash, Islam does all of that. Islam is an ideology that is based on violence, hatred, and intolerance. There's a video, Why Do Muslims Hate the Jews? Go check that out. Just read chapter 9. You would find out how warmongering of a religion Islam is. Anyway, so that aims to negate or destroy the fundamental rights and freedoms of others. That's Islam again. So you would think that wokes, Muslims, Jews, Christians, Hindus, they would all support it. Because they would all say, well, my ideology is not based on hatred or violence. My ideology is peaceful. But why are only Muslims having problem with that? Whether you are a lipstick Muslim or a radical Islamist, you would have a problem with this. Have a look at this woman. Someone sent me this screenshot. This woman, Bushra Sheikh, who is a lipstick Muslim, but radical in her heart, because that's what Islam does to you. Sometimes they say, well, I just don't like America's foreign policy. Sometimes the moderate ones say, well, I'm not happy with their tolerance towards the LGBTQ community. And the radical ones say, well, we just don't like anything about you and you would be better off under Sharia. Sharia for UK!
For UK! Sharia for UK! Sharia for UK! Sharia for UK!
So this lipstick Muslim is saying, non-hijab wearing, she is an ex-former hijabi. She's saying this bullying of Muslims in the UK and Islam is so draining. Oh, poor me. She blocked me and then I blocked her too. So I don't really know what she's up to. If she hasn't changed, which I believe she hasn't. She spends her day complaining about Britain, about how racist Britain is, etc., etc. Completely fed up of our communities being used for political point scoring. We are real people too, who are allowed to express ourselves just as anyone else. No, you're actually not. You cannot promote or advance an ideology that's based on violence, hatred, or intolerance. You can't do that. This government has ignited so much hate beyond appalling. I think she got the spellings wrong. But anyway, look at this Islamist, Dildo Hussein of 5 Pillocks. To provide further protection for the occupying apartheid state of Israel at the behest of Zionist neocon lobby groups at home, and in an attempt to divide the ranks of the Palestine Solidarity Movement, Hamas Solidarity Movement, Dilly, the UK government has used the genocide in Gaza to introduce a new definition of extremism. Why does he have a problem with this new definition of extremism? What's so wrong about that? The promotion or advancement of an ideology based on violence, hatred, or intolerance. You could apply this definition on any hateful ideology. You can apply that on white supremacists. You can apply that on Hindutva. You can apply that on radical Jews or radical Christians. But why are they not speaking against that? You know why? Because they don't act like you. That's why they don't have a problem with that. Yes, white supremacy can be a problem. But right now, it's not a problem. White supremacists are not a threat in any major Western country. Proud Boys are not a problem in America. They're so small. They're so insignificant. Britain First people are not a problem in the UK. But Islamists of your kind are definitely a problem.
Now with the current ongoing events that exposed all the Muslims in the West, especially the youth in the West, especially the youth in America, need to wake up. The current events are a wake-up call for Muslims to start normalizing mentioning jihad's proper meaning and putting it back into their vocabulary.
And that's why people like him have a problem with this new definition. As I said, anyone who looks at it, even wokes can actually apply Islamophobic angle to it. Like the promotion and advancement of an ideology based on violence, hatred, and intolerance. Wokes can say, yes, we can apply this on white supremacists who are Islamophobic, who are spreading hate and intolerance towards Islam. They can actually say that. I just don't understand. Am I missing something here? Why would any decent group of people would have a problem with this? You would only have a problem with this if your ideology does promote violence and hatred and intolerance towards other people. And it's not only just Islamism or the militant side of Islam. It's Islam in general, but we can't ban Islam. So in my opinion, this definition is not really that different from the old definition, but it's one of many steps that have been taken by Sunak government to indicate to Islamists that enough is enough. We're watching you very closely. We are sending you these subliminal messages that what you're doing is not right. And Rishi Sunak government is not doing it out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing it because of people like you who have been pressuring your politicians. These pro-Palestine protests have awakened a lot of people. People who did not want to rock the boat before, they want to talk about it now. So that's a good thing. But we are nowhere near the finish line. We can't take the foot off the pedal. Yes, we are gaining momentum and Islamists are on the back foot. That's a good thing. Keep speaking up against Islamism and keep pressuring your politicians. That's the only way. Because if our politicians don't listen to us, then the other option is very bad. This is taking us to civil unrest. We need to do this peacefully. We need to reach out to our politicians. We need to force them to come up with not just new definitions, but new legislations as well. Because if you don't pressure them, then it's business as usual. People not speaking up against the threat of Islamism is the sole reason we are where we are today. Had people been talking about this 10 years ago and not been scared of being labeled Islamophobic or racist, we wouldn't be where we are today. So I hope you liked today's video. If you want me to keep making awesome videos like these, if you want me to keep awakening the masses and keep turning them into wokes, not the bad kind, the good kind, then you can be my patron by going to patreon.com/Harris Sultan, or you can buy me a coffee. Until next time, ta-da. If you'd like to support my work, you can become my patron by going to patreon.com/HarusSultan, or you can simply buy me a coffee.